This is the To the Brim podcast, where we openly discuss all things mental health, including eating disorders, anxiety, depression, and more.
I'm Lauren, a licensed clinical social worker who specializes in anxiety, depression, OCD, and other mental health diagnoses.
And I'm Brandy, a registered dietitian who specializes in eating disorders and body image disturbance.
As healthcare providers, we know you can't pour from an empty cup.
We hope to shine a light on mental health issues in an authentic and accessible way and help you fill your mental health cup with knowledge, clarity, and validation.
This podcast is for information and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical or mental health advice.
We're excited to help you fill your cup so that you can take on life one sip at a time.
Welcome back, listeners. Today we're here with my good friend Lexy. We're going to be talking about autism, BPD, and BPD, but first I want to check in and see how we're landing. So I'll go first. My drink today is called Joy Burst. It's the peach flavored guy. It's a hydration drink because I'm pregnant and I need to stay hydrated. I'm about to pop any day now, so that's fun. But I'm feeling back and forth anxious and excited. Anxious because my water could break during this video, and excited to talk about mental health with somebody who's also so passionate about mental health. So that's how I'm landing today. Brandy,
Okay,
you want to go next?
I'll follow. I also have a Joy Burst, and I've never tried this before. It's actually pretty good. The strawberry lemonade, so I might have to pick this up later at Costco. And I feel like I have a Christmas hangover, to be honest. There's so much travel and excitement in the last week that this weird week between Christmas and New Year's just does feel sort of exhausting, but feeling like I'm recovering. Was really excited to do this today and to have a guest because we've never done that yet. And so yeah, I'm a mix of tired but also excited, and I can feel my energy coming up as we're getting rolling.
I love it.
Okay, Lexi, go ahead.
I'm drinking coffee. I used Lauren's, blonde espresso.
She got it.
Never had it before. I did put some vanilla in it and white chocolate.
Ooh,
that
with
does look good.
creamer. I'm feeling, I say pretty regular, fairly regular, a little bit dreadful about going back to work tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow is Monday.
And maybe
Sure.
the drive home, pending weather. But also love a good drive home, get lost in my music.
yeah.
Sometimes listen to podcasts. Sometimes I'll put Bob's Burgers on.
Heck yeah.
While I drive. Yeah, so, yeah.
I love that for you. Cool. Well, today I guess we're just going to start off by stating what is autism, what is BPD, and joy of joys, I have my diagnostic statistical manual, the 5th version here. So Brandy's going to let us know what autism is, and I'll let us know what BPD is before we dive in.
Yeah, so we're excited to talk about Lexi's story today. So there's two big pages here. We're just going to go over some of the criteria. There's a part A and a part B. Part A talks about the social communication and social interaction. And so some things could be maybe struggling a little bit with nonverbal communication, maybe being able to hold somebody's eye contact, or not understanding gestures or things like that. Maybe having trouble maintaining or understanding a relationship. And then part B talks more about repetitive behaviors or patterns, and it could be not just a stimming motion or with an object, but it could also be with their sound or their speech. Things that they want to be the same, maybe taking the same route to work, or having their food be exactly the same. A blueberry is a no-go, right? Because it could taste different every time, but a McDonald's hamburger is perfect because they know it's the same. It could be highly fixated on interests, and then sometimes there's hyper or hypoactivity to sensory. And I think those are the kind of things we see the most of. Okay, I'm passing the book.
Yeah, autism is more common than we probably realize. I can't wait to get into that a little bit. So then the reason we're going to talk about both autism and borderline personality disorder, or BPD, is because they share some similarities, and they're part of Lexi's story that she's going to share with us today. So for borderline personality, what the DSM says is, I'm just going to read right from it, a pervasive pattern of instability of interpersonal relationships, self-image, and effects, and marked impulsivity. It can begin in early adulthood, and then it's present in a variety of contexts. And then it says you can have 5 or more of the following symptoms to qualify for that diagnosis. So I won't go too into depth, but real or imagined abandonment would be an example. Unstable or intense interpersonal relationships, suicidal behavior, gestures or threats, self-mutilating, chronic feelings of emptiness, things like that. So we do want to share a disclosure here too, is if you feel like any of these things that we talk about today sound like you and you want your own diagnosis, we highly, highly, highly recommend seeking out your own mental health professional, because this is not a substitute for professional help. We just are here to fill your cup with some knowledge. So without further ado, let's talk about Lexy. Lexy, what is your, first off, experience growing up, maybe undiagnosed? We want to hear about that first.
Well, so like in general with BPD, you don't really get a diagnosis until you're 18. So like not really something you can diagnose as a kid. But growing up, I definitely believe that I like have autism, and so I was always like a really sensitive kid. I was always like really empathetic, really like aware of everything around me, and part of that had to do with my living situation. Like I really had to be understanding of like what my parents' emotions were and how I need to react to them, because what they were and or how I reacted to them would really define what happened next. So I had to be hyper aware of all of that. And then I think like the empathy kind of came in with like I had to be understanding, because as a kid, like believing that your parents weren't good isn't really like an option. Like there has to be a reason that your parents aren't doing like the things that they're supposed to do. Like there has to be a reason that they're not taking care of you. And so a lot of times as a kid you put that on yourself. And so like that's why a lot of kids believe like they're the reason, or like they're the problem for like all of these things happening. So because it's just like unfathomable to a child that like your parents can't do the one thing that they're supposed to do. So you find those reasons, and often that reason becomes yourself.
And autism is a current reflection, correct?
Yes.
Okay. It wasn't something that you were diagnosed with early on.
Right. Still not really diagnosed with it. I've talked to my therapist about it at length, and we've decided like there's not really much of a reason to seek a diagnosis. It wouldn't change a whole lot for me other than maybe give me some validation. I definitely have a lot of like imposter syndrome of like I'm faking this isn't like I'm not actually autistic, I don't have these things. But I think it's become more prevalent, and like recently my sensory issues have been like what's really getting to me. Like I feel like it's gotten worse over the years, and it's I think really just that I'm starting to mask less, or I like it is a disability, and so like a lot of times women on the spectrum, like it presents very differently in girls than it does in boys, and so it goes unnoticed in girls a lot because like we have that empathy, or like we're at least it's kind of similar with ADHD, with like a lot of girls with ADHD aren't always hyperactive. You'd be like, oh, you can't have ADHD, you do so well in school, and that's just not what it is. So it's always looked at very differently. And so like being very high performing in school and like being super focused on all of the things going on in my life, like once I moved out here I was really able to like take a break from everything that had happened. And so I think my body's kind of moving out of fight or flight mode, and these things that have always been kind of a problem or like a symptom it's been underlying, but now the other things have moved away and they're there, and it's like crazy when your disability actually is disabling, which is what my sensory issues are doing right now. It's really wild. But yeah, that's definitely more of a recent thing. But looking back to when I was a kid, like thinking about really not knowing what to do in social situations, there was a lot of that, and I feel like I do pretty well in social situations, but it's really all like calculated. I feel like a lot of people don't really calculate it. Like I've really learned how to interact in those situations, but then I always go back and forth, like the imposter syndrome is like, well, but doesn't everybody learn? Like it's learning. Everybody learns, but does everybody get anxious about what to do? I think I really struggle the most with like my facial expressions. Like I never know what to do like in front of an audience. Like I always feel really weird. I hate being perceived.
Sure.
Yeah, and like opening gifts is really hard.
Yeah.
Like
I think for everybody.
it's like yeah, but it's like I don't want to look not excited about it, but like I can be excited about it, but nothing about how I look says that.
Yeah.
And so like thinking about, okay, how do I look excited about this right now? And it feels so unnatural.
Yeah, it's extra pressure.
But like trying to fit in with what like people want to see. It's kind of wild.
That makes me think about Christmas. So we came over to your house for Christmas, and our two nieces were so excited, and they would scream out when they got their presents. But my son, who I was kind of telling you, I think maybe on the spectrum, he was interested in his presents, but his face was flat. And eventually, like, there'd be like a little smile coming out. But for the most part, he was very underwhelmed on the outside. But then, he comes home and he's like playing with all of his toys and looking through his things and is like really getting into it. I'm like, why were you not this excited in front of in front of the people that gave you the gifts? And it's my own thing having to be like, no, it's fine that he's not excited, in the moment.
Yeah.
But it is something that's, like socially learned is you want to see people's reactions on their face to know whether or not that they like the gift. But like, let's be honest, have you ever opened a gift and didn't look excited? Like, because you want that other person to also feel good about giving you the gift. So it does seem like masking. Like you have to put this extra thought into how am I being perceived so that the other person is, content or happy. Right. And that's a lot of work.
It takes a lot of energy, and it's also hard because it's you're always thinking about other people, not about yourself. Like it really is draining to always be like, okay, I need to respond this way so this person feels good about this. And it's really not like, it taught me not to focus on myself amongst many other things, right? Like there were a lot of reasons why I didn't focus on myself and what I needed. But like a big part of it was how do I respond to this? How should I look right now? Like what's the right reaction? And I think like there is one memory that I've been coming back to a lot more recently in therapy. I think it was like the start of like a lot of realizations for me as a kid, and I didn't really realize that until recently. And like being unsure of how to respond in situations is kind of what the story is about, because I remember I went shopping with my mom and my dad at Kohl's. I was 6 or 7. And my mom, I remember her saying, hey, I left my phone at home. It was dead, so it needed to charge. My dad was like, okay. My dad just had to do like something quick. So we weren't going to be there long. It was more of an errand and less of shopping. So my dad was like, okay, I'm going to go do this thing. And my mom was like, great. Lexi and I will be in the women's section. Come find us when you're done. Remember, I don't have my phone. And my mom and I are standing around, like still in the same section. And my dad comes around, like absolutely screaming at us, like, I didn't know where you were. Do you know how scary that is? From the moment he found us all the way through checkout and out to the car. And when we got out to the car, I was like, okay, be a mediator. Like, that's kind of like who I am. As I really find the middle ground a lot, which is kind of a big characteristic in BPD, is like really not being able to take sides on anything, really. I just, at least for me, that's how it is. Just being very in the middle about everything. So I was like, hey, Dad, it's okay. Remember, Mom said she didn't have her phone. You found us. We're safe. It's good. And he looked me in the eyes and said, you know what? Fuck you.
Wow. And
I was 7. And so, like, there was that situation. Then later that night, I went out to dinner with my sister and my grandma. And I was like, guys, Dad said F you to me today. And it really hurt. And they had, like, no reaction. Like, they brushed it off like it was totally regular. And that felt really wrong to me. But as a kid, I was like, okay, maybe this is just what it's like. I just have to accept this.
Right. You're basing your reaction off of your role models. And your role models were telling you, like, there was nothing wrong with that.
Right. And, like, being so young, like, I don't really realize that it's not that way for other people's families. Like, yeah. And so it was there. I have a lot of, like, internal dissonance about a lot of things. So there's really this push and pull of this isn't right, but also like I think this is just the way it is and I just need to accept it. And like I've been going back to that moment a lot recently, because I think that's when I really realized like something was wrong, but also maybe it's not, maybe it's just me, because I shouldn't have felt that way about it if it clearly wasn't that big of a deal. So
that's wild. That's like the start of your story, your rosebud. Like,
yeah, I think so. Like, I do have some memories before that, but I think that was the first one that I remember that was really, like, okay. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's hard to, like, it was hard to listen to what you're saying about having this middleman vibe, right? Of, like you could sense that his nervous system was off, and your nervous system was reacting to that of like, oh my gosh, I need to diffuse, I need to like make this okay. And in your attempts, it was just like slam the door.
Yeah, so at that point it's like, really, what do I do?
Right.
And it was so my sister is 4 years older than me, and she's very quick to react, and she kind of has like high responses to things. So she's a very angry person. Well, not as much anymore. She's been working on it a lot, but she had a lot to be angry about as a kid, and she had the role models of like, her parents are angry all of the time. Well, not as much my mom, but my dad. And so she definitely got more of my dad's side of that. And so whenever she would react, I would see what the consequences were of that, of like her being angry and fighting back. So I saw that, and then I saw my reaction of being the middleman, trying to diffuse, and how that ended up. And I really learned to just bite my tongue about everything. And so like now, whenever I'm like, okay, there is a response expected, I do need to do something about the situation. Like it's really hard to know what to do, and because I really am such a middleman, like I don't know how much you know about the Enneagram. I love the Enneagram. I'm a type 9, which is like the peacemaker. And I really just am in the middle about everything. Like both sides to everything, and I have a lot of empathy, I think is the other thing. Like people say empathy is a superpower. For me and where I'm at right now, I would say my empathy is more like debilitating. Like what I feel for other people is a lot of times too much. Like the feelings I've been having about my dad lately, and like feeling bad for where he must be at and all of these things. Like he doesn't really deserve my empathy, to be very honest. And I haven't really been empathizing like with myself. Like I haven't been feeling it about myself and like how hard what I'm going through must be. I'm only thinking about my dad. And so like it's really affected my mental health, and like my depression has gotten a lot worse, and like it's been almost debilitating. So empathy can be a superpower, but also it's really hard. And like a lot of people say that like for people with autism that they're not very empathetic, they're very blunt, like they can't really feel for other people, they're just very like factual and all of that. But that's not true. A lot of at least women, I'm sure it can be the same for men too, but women on the spectrum often have a lot of empathy. And so that's what I'm thinking about, like when I was a kid, the amount of empathy that I had. I'm like wondering if like I wouldn't say I'm overly sensitive. Well, I did say that. My therapist told me not to say that. She's like, don't say overly, like that's a judgmental word. Like the amount of sensitive that you are is okay. Like and it's not too much, it just is. But I was very sensitive, and my dad always told me, you're too sensitive. So how much of it is my dad being my dad?
True.
How much of it is I am more sensitive than the average person? And then I would be like, oh, but so then he's not actually that bad, I'm just too sensitive, it's just my fault. And so like those feelings. Or was I a kid growing up with autism with a family that didn't understand that? And like even if I didn't grow up with autism, I definitely would have still ended up with BPD, like because of the situation that I was in. But is my BPD worse because of my sensitivity as a child because of autism? I think is like kind of what I'm thinking about. Or actually, would I have ended up with BPD if I wasn't so sensitive? Like I think that I would have. I don't know. I kind of like downplay my experiences as a child a lot because I'm like, oh, wasn't that bad, or not even like wasn't that bad, but it was just my life, you know. People get uncomfortable like whenever I talk about my experiences. They're like, oh, you shouldn't talk about that. Like that's or like it's kind of a touchy subject. Like, should you really be talking about this? And I'm like, but it's my life, you guys. Like, I'm sorry, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are going to be hard things, but that's just life.
It is.
Guys. And if you can't learn to talk about the hard things in your life, like
they continue to control you.
You just
That's called suppressed trauma, suppressed emotion. Like we don't like that.
Yeah.
So then tell me, like, when did you kind of start your mental health journey? Like, when did you realize that you wanted to see a therapist, get diagnoses, that sort of thing?
In college, I would say, so my freshman year of college, I started to like relapse with my eating disorder. And so I was talking to talking to some of my RAs about it and like referring to RDs, and they referred me to counseling, and I was like, I really don't want to go to a counselor. Not that I didn't want to go to a counselor, but it's really hard to like find someone for me to talk to. Like, I'm much less picky about who I talk to now, but at the time was like very picky. Like, I don't want to talk to someone older, and at the time I was going to a private Christian college, and I'm not super religious, so like I felt kind of weird about that. Like, I don't want to talk about certain things because if they're religious, like, I feel like I shouldn't talk about this, but they're counselors, so it should. And like, it was kind of this whole mix of things. I did end up going to counseling, and I love my counselor with my whole heart. Great person. And then I moved out of my dad's in like the spring of freshman year of college, and then I ended up going to the mental hospital for a period of time. And they told me that I had BPD, and I looked at that diagnosis. I really was like, I don't think so for a long time.
That's a drastic diagnosis.
Yeah, it really was.
Because it's a lifetime diagnosis too.
Right, and it wasn't, being inpatient wasn't really the best experience. Like, we didn't have like group therapy or like any sessions or anything like throughout the day. Like, and my roommate, God bless her, I love her. She has special needs, and she would wake me up in the middle of the night because she wet the bed, and she was so scared to tell them. Like, I had to go tell them for her. She got her period when she was there, and they only gave her one pad. Like, it was not a great experience. So I was like, how would they know that I have BPD? Like, they talked to me for maybe 3 minutes, and I was like, how do you know that? Like, that was such a rash decision, and BPD is a big diagnosis.
Totally.
But yeah, so both like me and Katie were talking about it at the time, and we're like, I don't think so. But like, the more I learned about it in a less like stigmatized way, the more I was like, okay, I kind of understand, because BPD, like, yeah, it is a big diagnosis, and a lot of therapists won't see people with BPD because they're like, I can't do that. Or even like still recently, whenever I was doing color guard, like 2 years ago, one of the group members was talking about like BPD, and I chimed in and I was like, oh, I have BPD, and they're like, oh, well, this isn't about you, you're not like that. So but it's still a whole like, all people with a BPD are like this, but maybe like, oh, but not you, you're different kind of thing. BPD presents very differently in a lot of different people, and I think for me it's more inward, like that struggle that's characterized in people with BPD with relationships. Like with a lot of people with BPD will get into fights with their partners because they're so scared that their partner is going to leave them, and so they make them leave. Like, they take control of it and make it happen so that it doesn't happen out of their control. And a lot of the feelings they have of like being super attached and then resenting them, like that kind of splitting there, is more outward. They talk about those things, like, it's very visible. And for me, and maybe this is part of my autism, it's very inward. I don't express those things, but it's a struggle that I'm having like constantly inside. So like, yeah, it's not as noticeable to a lot of people, but it is very noticeable to me.
Yeah, that's wild. Some of these things that you're bringing up, when I first started my practice, I had a client who my supervisor was like, don't diagnose with BPD, like, she just turned 18, like, don't do that. But I was like, so hard set. She was BPD. Like, she did self-sabotage. She did experience abandonment. She did have these splitting features. Like, it was just so obvious that she did have BPD, but I didn't, because I was so like new in my practice and didn't know a whole lot about BPD yet. I was like, sorry, I don't know how to help you, sis. Like, you're outside my scope.
Yeah, so, and that's totally valid. Like, to so not see someone within your scope of competence. Like, we talk about that a lot in ABA. Just went through my ethics class, a lot about the ethics code, but it's practicing within your scope of competence. And so, like, it would definitely be more beneficial for someone with BPD to see somebody who's able to help them more. But, like, the amount of people who are, like, who just won't see people with BPD, not because it's out of their scope of competence, but because they're like, I don't want to do that.
Because it's too hard.
It's
almost like a stereotype, going to a doctor and being like, I have BPD.
Too. The person that I see for my med checks, Jamie, she was like, I would say that you have PTSD, but I'm not going to diagnose you with it because I don't want that like on your files or anything like that. And like not necessarily for me. It wasn't something that like we were really targeting treating, other than like through therapy. But like med wise, weren't really going to do anything about it. So she's like, it's just something to keep in mind, kind of thing. But like it is a big diagnosis to have BPD and PTSD. Like there are certain things.
Absolutely.
That, yeah.
So you kind of brought in a good segue piece too, which is you said that you're an ABA and you just finished your master's. So do you want to talk a little? Oh, sorry, you're really close to finishing your master's. So do you want to talk a little bit about your background, like where you're getting your master's, what that's for, and why, and also where you work? Because that would be interesting.
Yeah,
but not too far into where you work.
Yeah. So I graduated with my undergrad in psychology in 2022, and that was in Pennsylvania, and then I moved out here. And
here's in Washington, for those who are unaware. Okay.
So yeah, whenever I moved to Washington, I've been working in ABA since. Like it was my first job that I had there. Applied Behavioral Analysis. Yeah, so I've been working in ABA since I moved out here. So specifically what I do, like I work with kids on the spectrum in a clinical setting. We have done like in-home services, just most of our kids prefer most of the parents prefer the in-clinic setting, which is kind of nice because it is kind of like a school setting for them. It gets them used to going to school every day, but some of our kids are really young and wouldn't be in school for that amount of time. Like they're there like 40 hours a week, and that's a full-time job.
Heck yeah.
That's a lot. It's a little too much for kids, in my opinion. But
fun fact, that's actually where Lexy and I met. Was
crazy.
that ABA clinic? Anyways, just wanted to sneak that in there.
Yeah.
The stories we could tell.
I mean, I really just think about the one time we were walking out to our cars and I was like, bye, I love you. And I was like, that's so awkward. Lauren was my first friend in Washington. Yeah, I get kind of emo about
Besides
it sometimes.
Katie, who you took with you from Pennsylvania.
I've known her since freshman year. Well, I've known her since 5th grade.
Oh, wow.
But we've been best friends since freshman year of high school. And then we went to undergrad together. And we had the same major and we lived together and we moved out to Washington together.
I'm your first Washingtonian.
Yeah, you are.
And I will never forget how you had disclosed to me when we did become friends. You were like, I saw you at the clinic and I was like, I want to be her friend.
Yeah.
Cute. And it blossomed, man. Like, I loved it. I loved working with you and I love you as my friend. Like, with my whole heart, you were just so important to me.
You taught me a lot about how to be a good BT. And to like,
even though upper management didn't think I was a good BT.
The behavioral therapist?
Sorry, yes, thank you.
Yeah, so in like December of 2023, I decided I wanted to get my master's in ABA because I really like what I do. I love learning about behavior. Like in undergrad, my favorite class was my learning theory class where you learned about learning and learned about behavior, and it was really cool, and I really loved it. So I was like, I would really like to continue to go to school for behavior. And so I decided to get my master's in ABA, partially because one of the BCBAs kind of like pushed it on me. She's like, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And it felt good to be good at something. And also I liked learning about it. So I was like, okay, so I'm getting my master's online through Arizona State University. I hate online school for me. I really like learning in a classroom. But I justified doing it online because I'm also in the clinic and I'm able to apply what I'm learning in class in the clinic, which is really nice, kind of like having that set up. So I'll be done like at the end of the summer, really. I have 2 more classes and then I have like my applied project to do. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure that I want to become a BCBA, at least like right away, and like where I'm working right now, I feel like I'm not learning as much as I should be learning, or I'm not, we used to have a BCBA there who I really looked up to, and I did an interview with her recently because I had to do an interview for my ethics class, and it was like, give one piece of advice to like people who want to become BCBAs, and she said, if you don't want to be the kind of BCBA that your supervisor is, you need to find a new supervisor.
I love that, actually.
Yeah, my supervisor is
garbage. No.
The owner. Yeah,
so
no.
mean, but incompetent.
You like, I told you that Leslie is my supervisor. Yeah, yeah, and I don't like. She has a lot of knowledge, but I don't want to be the kind of BCBA that she is. something that I've been struggling with in ABA, specifically like in my ethics class, we learned about like not mixing practices. In ABA, like you can only do ABA unless like if you are licensed to do something else, you can do it, but separately. Like make sure that you're not advertising that service as ABA when it's not ABA. Like don't confuse them, don't mix it up, blah blah blah. But I would love a kind of ABA where you also focus on like the mental health issues, because a lot of kids on the spectrum experience a lot of trauma. And like yes, we target certain things, like for example, like if a kid is scared to go to the bathroom in a public place because in one public place there was like a hand dryer that was really loud, the toilets flush extra loudly, or like it's just scary, and so it was a traumatic experience. Okay, we work on that. Like we shape them walking up to the bathroom door, knocking on the door, stepping into the bathroom, okay, pulling your pants down in front of the toilet,
Baby
sitting
steps.
on the toilet. Like you take those baby steps and you reinforce it. And I love that amount of reinforcement and whatnot, but like being cognizant of like what the function of the behavior is. We look at the function of the behavior. Okay, is it this is escape maintained. Like they're having like maybe they're screaming, kicking, crying because they don't want to go into the bathroom, and that's escape. Okay. But we don't really look at why is it escape maintained? Why do they have it? Like I had a client who, rather than getting an answer wrong during a program, he would rather like tear apart a room. He was so scared to be wrong. So they're like, oh, it's escape maintained. You just have to go through with it. Like continue with task presentation. Don't let him escape this demand. But it's like, why? Why is he so scared to get this wrong? Like why is it escape maintained? He's scared to get it wrong. How are things happening at home? Like when he does something wrong at home, how are parents reacting to that? And how is that carrying over to this?
Like behaviors are inadvertently being reinforced to make that challenging for him in the clinical setting.
Right. And so like there's just a lot more to look at. And I feel like ABA doesn't always do that. It's like, oh, the functions escape, okay, continue a task presentation. I'm like, but why is it escape? And how can I help them with that rather than just being like, answer this question, this question.
And there's your empathy.
Like, and they're just kids.
They are.
And I think sometimes ABA can forget that. Certain places can forget that. Overall, I really like the idea of ABA. Like, I really love just like using reinforcement and like shaping these things, and like it's obviously reinforcement increases behavior, and you want to avoid punishment as much as you can. Like the only time you use punishment, at least in ABA, is whenever like all reinforcement strategies have failed, or if the behavior is like too dangerous to like slowly like use reinforcement. Right. You know what I mean? So like, and yeah, and I love that idea, and I love that like I get to go to work and I get to teach these kids how to communicate. Like there was a kid that I started with and we were counting sounds, and now he can say, I want to go bathroom. Like he like verbally is saying these sentences, and like it's not like super like you're not having a conversation with him, but like he is understood. He can say that sentence to a person that he's never met, and they can know what he means. And that's really cool. I don't know. I just really love that I get to like teach these skills. Like I'm teaching them community helpers, or like how to match colors, or these things that would be so much harder for them in a public school setting. Like they really get that one-on-one attention, and I do love the relationships that I'm building too. Like I do love these kids. They're really great kids, and whenever you're working with them like 20 hours a week, like you really get to know them and understand them. And I think that's the really good part about like being a BT before you move up to become like a LABA or a BCBA, or like wherever you move in the chain. Like you should be a BT first, because you understand like what it's like to get to know these kids and understand where they're coming from. Because like when they're like having these behaviors, like I do really feel for them a lot of the time, and I'm like, how can I help you? Because I know that their emotions are also just so big, and they don't have the skills to control them yet.
And like, how rewarding is that you can do that for somebody when that wasn't available to you growing up? Yeah.
It is really hard sometimes though, because I spend my whole day like taking care of other people, and I'm still learning how to like just take care of myself. Like that's a very new skill for me. I don't really get to do that a lot, especially because like just of the place that I work at, I typically leave fairly angry. So like
that's gonna be a whole other podcast
like
session.
But like having to take care of like just calm myself down from that and not even like get to take care of like what's underneath the anger.
Totally.
Like I don't even get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's frustrating sometimes.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
You had said a minute ago something about like the public schools, and I remember we were talking off camera about that as well. Do you want to maybe piece some of that together of like how maybe public schools are failing some of these kids?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I know a whole lot about public, like I haven't worked in schools, but I know like that the public education has failed like neurotypical people, like typically developing children aren't learning certain things that they like really should be learning. I have some friends that are in school for like education right now, and they've done their student teaching, and they're like, man, kids don't know how to write like a paragraph anymore, or like these things, and like things change through time. I like it's always shocking to us to see it, but like whenever we were kids in school, they were like, oh, kids don't know how to get a library book anymore, and you know there's always these things. So yeah, I can't really say much about that, but like I would say that there's a lot of things that I didn't learn in school that would be very beneficial. Like one personal thing that I know is my dad has lost my social security card many times.
Really?
And I know that like you can only get a new social security card so many times before
sure it's like twice in your life.
Before you have to like go to a court and explain to them why you need a social security card. And I don't know how to be like, hey, my dad's a dumbass and my school didn't teach me how to do this. Like I never learned how to do that. I never learned how to write a check. Like there are so many like things that we never learned. And then like I know personally for me, like the older generation, my uncle or my dad or my grandpa, they're like, and you don't know how to go about this. And I'm like, you were talking about houses and building equity, and I'm like, I have no idea what that is.
Sure.
Like, how do you even do that? How do I begin to understand that? And maybe it's common knowledge to like typically developing people, like they gain this information, but to someone who like didn't have parents that really had any information to share, I learned absolutely nothing. My dad did teach me how to drive in the snow, and that's all I got from him. Genuinely.
I think you and I had a conversation about like the process of buying a car, like trading in your car, or
I really know nothing about the way things work, and sometimes like my friends will talk to me like, how do you not know this? Like I feel really stupid about it. Even whenever I'm like, when I picture Elon Musk and his Danny DeVito in my head, people are like, how do you not know these things? And I'm like, I just don't.
It's because it's not taught in a general sense.
It's not taught. And also, like, for me, and, like, growing up or being diagnosed with BPD and, like, having autism, like, I have so many other things that I'm working through as, like, a first thing. Like, it is not my first priority to know what Elon Musk looks like. Like, I'm so sorry. But, like, yeah, like, I don't know how to do a lot. There's a lot that I know how to do on my own that I know other people my age don't know how to do, because I had to figure that out as a kid. Like, I had to go and figure this stuff out. And I know I can figure certain things out. But I do have a sense of, resistance. No, it's like a form of, it's very common in BPD, resistance. Like, whenever someone tells you to do something, I noticed a lot in like middle school, or I can remember in 5th grade art class, I was sitting at my table, and one of the girls sitting there named Taylor was yapping about Justin Bieber and like her obsession with him, and maybe I would have liked Justin Bieber, but because he was popular, I hated him. I could not like him. I had to be different. Same with like Hunger Games, Divergent, like all of these things, or even whenever my friends are like, you need to watch this show, you love it, I'm like, I hate it. I know nothing about it, and I'm like, I hate it, can't watch it. And like, it's just, even taking meds, I had a really hard time taking meds for a long time, because it's like being told what to do and I can't do that. And it is like resistance, but it's also kind of hyper independence. Like for me, I was taking care of myself from a very young age, and taking care of everyone around me too. Like I was taking care of my mom. I had to take care of my sister a lot. Like my sister's older than me, and like we've talked at length about how like she was supposed to be the older sister and taking care of me, but I was taking care of her a lot of the time. Like one of the things that I've been thinking about more recently that I think I forgot about for a long period of time is whenever my sister was 14, like, she was sneaking out a lot, and I was 10. She was asking me to help her sneak out, and I did. Because I was a cool older sister, you know, whatever. I wanted her to like me, and it was really just my sister and I. Like, we didn't really have other people to go to, so she was, like, my ride or die. So I would help her sneak out, but she would be like, if I'm not home by 2 a.m., you need to wake up Dad or call the cops because something's wrong. And so, like, that responsibility being put on me, like, my dad for a long time maybe still does, I don't know, doesn't really matter to me, but blamed me for, like, her drug addiction and, like, her overdoses.
Your sister's, right?
I'm the person that helped her sneak out of the house and kind of, and even if I didn't help her, she would have done it. Like, that's not my responsibility, that's not my fault. I was a kid.
Like, I knew my sister snuck out and I didn't do shit. I didn't, like, tattle or anything. Like, they were gonna make their own mistakes. So that's really harsh that your parents came back at you and were like, that's your fault as a 10-year-old who doesn't know any better.
And I think that's also where, like, a lot of my anxiety, I have a lot of, like, OCD tendencies, and they're mostly about, like, anxiety and paranoia, and, like, I think it's because I was so anxious all night about, is my sister gonna get home safe? Am I gonna have to call the cops? Am I gonna have to wake up my dad? And somehow that was scarier than calling the cops.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, like, having that be my responsibility, I remember, like, I would be driving somewhere with my mom, and I would make her turn around to go home to make sure that I turned the light off, because if I didn't turn the light off, the whole house was going to burn down, and it was going to be my fault. Like, I still have a lot of those things. Like, I have to take pictures of things and make sure I turned it off. But even after that, I'll be like, I blacked out and I turned it back on. Or, like, I have, like, I have, like, very common thoughts about, like, oh, I did something and I don't even remember it, and, like, that's that kind of paranoia. Or, like, there's cameras somewhere, like, when I'm driving, like, if I'm ever speeding, I'm like, this car next to me is an undercover cop, or, like, this person, and it's like, but it's like everything, there's some hidden law that I don't know about that's like, oh, but, like, there was someone with the U.S. Army, like, sticker on the back of their car, like, the little star thing that's on there, and I was like, they can pull me over, they were in the Army.
Oh, no.
And, like, there's some rule that I don't know about that, like, it's very interesting.
There's so many details and complexities to your, you know, personal situation, and I just want to thank you first and foremost for sharing anything and everything. Like, I know you and I have talked, and, like, you're such an open book, and I don't know what you're comfortable sharing to the world if it ever gets to that point, but gosh, you've just been through so much, and, like, just trying to redirect backing into autism and BPD and how challenging that was, like, growing up and then, like, immersing yourself in that environment, you know, on a daily work basis. So then I also want to ask, you know, you said you didn't know you were studying or getting your master's to become a BCBA, which, can you remind us what that stands for?
Board Certified Behavior Analyst.
Thank you. Studying for that, but now you don't know if you want to do that anymore. So what would be your alternative?
I want to be, like, a first grade teacher. And my mind goes straight to first grade because I loved my first grade teacher. I accidentally called her grandma many times. And it was Mrs. Brandt. I loved her. I loved first grade. Like, I love that age too. Like, you know, they just went to kindergarten, whether or not they did full day or half day kindergarten. Like, they're now doing full days of school here. Like, really getting set up in this teaching environment, and how to make teaching fun and, like, engaging, and, like, learning a lot of the, like, very primary skills that they're going to learn later on, and like, learning how to make friends and, like, build these relationships. And, like, I just think it's really cool. My first grade teacher is really the teacher that I remember the most, and I think it'd be cool to really have that experience. And I wouldn't necessarily want to work in special education. I know that in my classroom, I would have kids that have special needs, regardless of whether or not they're in a special education like, program, and whether or not they're diagnosed. Like, and even if I wouldn't have any kids that are special needs, like, ABA works for everyone.
I was just going to say, like, that'd be a nice overlap. I use ABA techniques in sessions with my clients all the time, whether they're 8 or 30, like, or 50. Like, ABA is just so applicable no matter where you go.
Autism and BPD back to each other. Like, even reading the DSM, there were some overlying symptoms with like relationships. That was something that was mentioned in autism and in BPD.
Yeah.
And also bringing in like the kind of like OCD things that I have. I do think that like my sensory issues that I have, the misophonia is more OCD than anything, and so a lot of people with autism experience these symptoms with OCD and like having that there, but also the trouble in relationships and like some different ways, either like not understanding your partner and where they're coming from, or like maybe not being able to show the same affection. Like it looks different for people with autism. Like they're not able to show affection in the same way. Like I love you looks very different for people with autism. That's something like I've had to recently work through with my girlfriend, is like she's very affectionate in different ways, and I'm like hoping, like I ask her a lot, like, do you feel loved by me? Like I want to know that you feel loved, because like I want to love you in the way that you deserve to be loved. And I might not be able to give you all of the ways you deserve to be loved, but like let me know what I can, or like what you need more of, or like kind of finding that form of compromise. But also like that's the autism side, but then the BPD side is like that push and pull of
that
like
insecurity almost.
Like the splitting, and do I actually love this person? Am I faking it? I don't have a lot of feelings of like, are they going to leave me? Like that's not really something I consciously experience. I think that would be more unconscious for me, and splitting is typically more unconscious. But like I feel like I hope that I have enough awareness of myself to understand what my behaviors are. And like the ABA, like I'm listening, my behaviors, my communication, and I really try to understand that. Like my depression, I typically don't feel sad. Like I don't feel depressed a lot of the time. I notice it in my actions. I'm not eating right, not leaving my bed. All of these like hobbies that I used to have, I just don't do anymore. And I want to, but it's exhausting to do them. And I'm like, yeah, I'm depressed. Like I don't feel sad, but I can tell I'm depressed.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's something about autism too, and or BPD. Like it might be both.
Maybe.
I wouldn't even put past like the anxiety. I was gonna try this in sooner, but we just go off the rope. Taking those baby steps is almost so similar as to like tackling somebody's anxiety, and so like autism can be like overstimulated. My sensory input is just like overwhelming at this moment, but also like those who suffer with anxiety, like that's because your emotions are so strong, they're so overwhelming, so it's easier to take baby steps in both scenarios. So I mean, like autism isn't just like the spectrum of autism. It's like autism plus anxiety plus depression plus potential BPD plus OCD. Like everything can get stacked on, which makes it such a complex
I'm not
diagnosis.
even gonna get started in like autism and ADHD
yeah,
too.
I
Like
should
ADHD.
start that one.
I didn't tell you that whenever I started seeing my PCP, I was talking, and after a couple minutes, she goes, "So, ADHD. How do you feel about that?" And I was like, "How do you feel about that?" And I went over it with Noah. We pulled out the DSM and we were going through, because with ADHD, there's like inattentive and then hyperactive.
Right.
Yeah.
And I met like almost all of the criteria for inattentive. But like you also shouldn't use the DSM to self-diagnose.
Right.
But there is an extent of, I have these symptoms and I want to know where to put them. Because either like these symptoms are part of something that I have, or the way my brain puts it is like they're part of me as a person and I'm just a shitty person. Like at one point in college, I got I can't remember the word for it now, it doesn't really matter, but I met with Dr. Cairns, and he like, it was kind of like an exam kind of thing. And so Katie,
like a neurological issue?
Yeah, Katie
Okay.
went to see him and he was like, yeah, I would definitely say you have ADHD, you should go get tested for it. I went to see him and he was like, I wouldn't diagnose you with anything. And it was incredibly invalidating, because I was like, I have these symptoms and I have nowhere to put them, and if I don't have anything, does that mean I'm just a shitty person? And that felt horrible.
Yeah.
So like, not that I love having diagnosis on diagnosis on diagnosis, but it is nice to have a place to put my symptoms. I know like knowing that they are disabilities, like it is disabling, and knowing like this is going to affect my life and I'm going to be pissed about it, because I should just be able to deal with it. Like that's my brain saying I should just be able to deal with it. I've been through all of these things, like,
But who
like
doesn't
that
have
kind
a
of
diagnosis?
thing. Right, so true. But like,
I want to
yeah,
hear
I
what
just
you
don't know how
think.
to put it.
I want to hear what you think about those who are like afraid to get a diagnosis or don't want that label for, you know, stereotypical purposes or other reasons. But like, I'm thinking of our dad, who I turned to him one time and I was like, were you ever diagnosed with a mood disorder? He goes, probably, but like he never actually went and, you know, got that testing. And I think some people don't want that label. So what do you say towards
that's totally valid. Like, whether or not you want that label is up to you. Like, if you're able to be like, yeah, I definitely have something and it doesn't really matter to me that I know what it is, like, that's fine. Like, if you kind of have that acknowledgement of, or like you can kind of have that where if you're really like, no, I don't have anything, I don't want to be diagnosed with anything. I feel like that's kind of a different thing, a little bit of avoidance there, and maybe some self-reflection of like, and like maybe you don't have anything, or maybe like, sure, if you don't want to be diagnosed with it, if you don't want that label, that's totally valid, because a lot of people feel like that defines them. True. But really, like, it's just a part of you, and even with a diagnosis, like, maybe it won't go away. Like, autism doesn't go away, right. BPD doesn't go away, but you can like lessen your symptoms, you can manage it, and that's always nice to know, so you can know what approach to take. Totally. Like, but borderline personality disorder uses dialectic behavior therapy. Like, you use DBT, and you could probably use CBT. Yeah. But would CBT be as effective as DBT? And would you be going through like all of these therapies, and whether or not you even want to see a counselor? Like, there's a lot of layers there. But personally, I like having a place to kind of like put these things. So I just like things to be organized. Yeah. I like to have them in their own little box, and I know, and I maybe might put this symptom in my my BPD box, but it also belongs in the autism box. Like,
it's like a Venn diagram.
It really is. I've seen Venn diagrams that have like autism, BPD, and ADHD, like that. And there are certain, because there's the autism and BPD, and that like instability in relationships, and autism and ADHD with like the inattentiveness, like all of that stuff in its own, but that also comes along with BPD and the dissociation and the inattentiveness. Like, there's so many layers to it.
Well, I'm looking at our time, and we're just running right out. We need a part 2 with Lexy.
We do. But we really want to say thank you, because this was such a fun conversation. But we'll have you back someday.
And then listeners, we also want to encourage, if you suspect autism or BPD or have those diagnosed, to like, and you feel comfortable, share your story with us, like down in the comments, or email, whatever. Like, we want to hear it. We do. And if you're comfortable enough, don't mind, we can absolutely share that as well. But until then, never pour from an empty cup, right, Lexy? So your cup is like still full of coffee.
I didn't yappen. Oh my god.
Okay, cheers, everyone.